Welcome to Focused Fire Chat. Explore together.
Welcome back for the 17th installment of our Extra Lore series, recorded live on August 2nd, 2017 on Twitch.tv. Big shout out to the live chat here. Thank you so much for spending your evening with us. Our topic for this chat is going to be an introductory look into the Horizon Zero Dawn series. This is your host, Blue Crew 86. Alongside me, we have the man who, it has been said, has the voice of a flower, Justin Sane 0516. Justin, what are your thoughts on the topic tonight?
My thoughts are, I was really upset with this game because I was all ready to play it. I went on Xbox Live, I went to the marketplace, and I was just looking for like hours and hours. Probably time I should have been spent prepping, but instead, just looking for this game, and this game is a myth. It doesn't exist.
There was zero dawning on your.
There was zero. But in all seriousness, this title is like one of the few that I've seen that would actually make me spring for the PS4 just because it looks really cool.
I can understand that. Be sure to let Mel know that we miss her over on Twitter at The Wind of the Stars. Life has proven to be pretty hectic for her lately, and we want to show her our support while she's getting everything sorted up. Also, we have with us our resident Gunter extraordinaire, Green Eye Music Lover. Green, hope you're ready for the shenanigans tonight. I know the internet connection is plaguing you. What are your thoughts on the topic tonight?
My thoughts are, this is a game that it actually convinced Julie to... Okay, so I don't hold the money purse. I don't hold the purse in the family. And so when I was watching the movie for this, kind of prepping for it, Julie was watching it with me, and she really, really liked it. So this game convinced her to get a PS4. My wife, who does not play video games, wanted to buy a video game console because of a movie version of it that we watched. So I'm sold.
Good job.
Good job. I like playing it. It's fun. It's a fun one, and it is gorgeous. It's a gorgeous game.
And, of course, for these topics, we always want to make sure we have someone who is well-versed in the lore. With that being said, I want to welcome Infested Potato. Potato, how is everything going for you tonight?
It's going real good. Happy to be here. Excited.
Cool.
Yeah.
And can you let us know where people can find you and what got you into the Horizon Zero Dawn series?
You can find me on the Xbox at Infested Potato, same way as it's in the Discord. I jump between channels every day, and you can just message me if you want to talk or whatever you want to talk about. Usually you'll find me in the Extra Lore or the Focus Fire chat, though. That's where I mainly hang out. On Twitter, same thing. You can find me, Infested Potato, right there. And that's about it, yeah.
Perfect.
Everywhere. And as for Horizon Zero Dawn's been on my radar since it first trailered at E3. And I don't even know who it was. I think it was like 2 years ago. I think it was like 2015 when it first trailered.
Mm-hmm.
There was that first time you saw Aloy sliding down down the rope, and she was going after a herd of the machines, and she ended up like ticking them off, and then all of a sudden, giant mechanical T-Rex comes out from through the trees, and that was like, yep, I need to check this game out. I actually didn't have a PS4 until the beginning of this last year. My wife was nice enough to gift me with one, and I immediately, as soon as it released, I was like, yep, I'm gonna go pick this up, and I've been playing it ever since. But if I'm truthful, I'm actually only on the last mission of the campaign. I was kind of playing it all day. I didn't realize how far behind I was campaign wise, and because I'm one of those guys that I'm very easily distracted by shiny objects, and this game has a lot of shiny objects.
Well, yeah, there's machines.
Yeah.
They're all shiny, right?
Yeah, but I'd be going to I'd have to force myself to go do a campaign mission because I'm gonna go do the campaign mission. Oh, look, a giant shiny robot. Let's go poke that with a stick. And that would be like the next 2 hours of my life is just messing with that machine and figuring out what's going on. And just there's so many, like Black Flag said in the chat, there's so many side quests. There's so many little side stories that you can dive into that just like by the time you come out, you're like, oh wait, there's still a main mission I have to go to.
Nice. Now, well, let's run through the intro real quick with all the housekeeping notes, and then we're going to jump into. I think did we decide we're going to do the game timeline or the actual chronological timeline?
I think we should stick with the game timeline.
Okay, perfect. Well, let's jump through the intro real quick, and then we'll start it up. Before we start off the chat, however, I do have a few housekeeping notes. In our last Extra Lore episode, we discussed the Halo series. If you missed that and have any interest in hearing our thoughts, please be sure to check out the new www.focusfirechat.com for archives of all previous chats, links to the other aspects of Focus Fire Chat out in the internet, and a growing collection of community articles. If you don't mind, please give us some feedback on iTunes to let us know how we're doing, as well as helping us continue to grow. As many of you already know, Focus Fire Chat is a cross-community gathering where the intent is to offer a week-long, in-depth view of a particular subject from within the lore of Destiny and other games. With the Extra Lore series, we delve into a game series other than Destiny for a full month, giving the group a chance to get a feel for the other games that our community loves to play. We try to stream a recap of this month-long conversation in the first week of each month. Please be sure to also give some support to the other podcasts in the Guardian Radio Network, found at theguardiansofdestiny.com. These include Guardian Radio, the first and longest running Destiny podcast on the net, Guardian 1, Ghosts and Echoes, which also has the Destiny Audio Grimoire, and the network's newest edition, a non-Destiny podcast, Paragon Radio. Our next Extra Lore is going to be a discussion on the lore of Final Fantasy, so be sure to jump into the Discord server and weigh in. With that, Potato, would you kindly start us off with a general summary on the information that we have about Horizon Zero Dawn?
All right, so let's get this party started. So you start the game off as soon as you actually hit the enter screen. Cutscene, which shows a character known as Rost, who we'll go into a little bit later here. He is holding a child, a little baby. And he is on this cliffside, and he's approached by one of the matriarchs of a tribe called the Nora, and they are kind of a nomadic people of the area. They have a lot of influences, you can tell in their garb, by Native American as well as just really early caveman, very heavy wearing clothes, like lots of furs and things like that. And the matriarch says that she has to proclaim a name for the child as some sort of birth ritual. And there's some there's some
contention.
Thank you. There's some contention between one of the matriarchs several of the matriarchs and the lead matriarch, whose name is unfortunately eluding me at the moment. I think it's Tersa. Yeah. So Aloy goes above the cliff. She says, "Proclaim the name," and he shouts out, "Aloy." Aloy is jump forward a little bit, and we jump to Aloy as a child. We find out that Rost and Aloy are actually what are considered outcasts of the Nora tribe, and part of that being an outcast is they're not allowed to interact or be friends with any of the Nora in the main village. So the village people won't talk to them, won't even look at them. They'll throw rocks at them if they get too close. It's not a fun way to live. Aloy is kind of upset about being shunned from the village. She's trying to figure out, how to make her way in the world. In doing so, she runs away from a kids that were throwing rocks at her, and she falls into this cavern. The cavern is full. It's like part cave and then part metal, and it's obviously some sort of old structure. And what she's actually fallen into is a ruin of what would be pretty much our world. It's an old metal structure. It's super technologically advanced. There's holographic screens, and she finds this piece of technology on the ground, and it's actually attached to a body. She finds out and freaks her out for a second. The little device she takes we learn is called a focus, and she puts it in her ear. And from what we can tell throughout the game, is the focus actually plays a really important part. It's almost like their version of cell phones in their time, not the time that Aloy's in, but the time before obviously all this travesty and the apocalypse pretty much happened.
It functions much like a UI for a video game. it
Mhm.
shows up things on screen that you wouldn't normally get to see. So things from the past, things from pre-recorded. You get to see weaknesses, machine weaknesses. You can see different resources with it. It's a UI for the game that is actually written into the story of the game.
Mhm.
Oh, so it just gives you a HUD type deal.
A little bit more than that because you can toggle it on and off.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, so it's like a useful, mutable Navi.
Yes, it overlays the entire screen with what looks like stuff from Tron. You think about the beams of light from Tron
Mhm.
that show up all over the place. That is kind of what it does. It maps out everything very much Matrix-like and allows you to see more clearly things that are there that people wouldn't normally pick up unless they were trained to pick it up.
So
Along with
basically,
that,
this is encouraging me to pick up the game.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
it's
sorry, potato.
it's no, it's fine. It's as soon as I started figuring out, like I'm still learning about functions of this game. Like turn that focus. Like she said, it lets you see other things around you. She could see like data ports, things of these. Like it's almost like there was a worldwide cloud, like a super effective, like super efficient cloud network that spanned the entire globe, like super internet for the whole globe. When what we refer to as the old ones, which is like the advanced part of our civilization before it collapsed. But you can also see like the machines in the distance. You can see turkeys and boars and birds that you can hunt around you. And like Green said, you can look at the ground and see like footprints or blood marks and pieces of armor or something like that that may have been left by another character. It's a pretty useful tool. You use it a lot during the game because it actually allows you to find, like I said, data points that actually turns into almost like grimoire cards from Destiny, little snippets of the story from back before the apparent apocalypse. So
Yeah, definitely. So after Aloy finds the focus, she kind of finds her way out of this cave, and Rost finds her and basically berates her a little bit or just kind of gets onto her because to the Nora tribe, the tribe that Rost was originally from and that Aloy is originally from, even though they're outcast, the metal world, which is anything that has to do with the machines, is sacred. And they're not allowed to go in those areas. They're not supposed to go in those areas. And that's essentially what Aloy just did. She dropped into a abandoned area that was of the metal world or the world that came before, I think post-apocalyptic. And yeah, so we learned that she is kind of different from most Nora in that she wants to keep the focus even when Rost tells her that he wants it and that she's not supposed to have it. She keeps a hold of it and starts to learn from it throughout the game. Following that, you want to get into kind of the setup for the proving?
sure. After she finds the focus, makes her way out, like Green said, and gets berated by, starts asking questions of Ross, and Ross is always distant of giving her direct answers. He's kind of wants her to figure it out for herself in some things, and she's asking questions like, "Where's my mom? Where did I come from? Why am I an outcast? What did we do wrong?" And Ross reveals to her that Nora go through what is called a proving, which in ancient cultures would pretty much be like a coming of age challenge. Like I can't think of a good example off the top of my head. It's some sort of daunting physical task. And she learns that whoever wins the proving gets to ask the matriarchs any question they want, and they also become a member of the Nora. Even if they were an outcast, they are welcomed back to the Nora.
Right, and you just have to finish the proving to become part of the tribe.
Right.
The proving is to determine which of the Nora children can possibly become a brave of the Nora, which is their military type. They're not militaristic, but like ranger type force. And whoever wins, like Potato was saying, is granted a boon. Not necessarily a question answered, but in Aloy's case, it is a question. She wants to know where she came from, because the reason she's outcast in the first place is because she is motherless. She has no mother, and she's been called that most of her childhood and shunned because of it, and she wants to know why, and she wants to know who that person is or why she was left. So after that, she kind of, there's a section where she gets upset because a child of the tribe kind of starts throwing rocks at her and calling her names and picks on her a little bit, and she determines that she wants to know why she's different, like I was saying. So she demands of Rost to be able to be trained to win the proving. And so there's a really cool cutscene where you see her learning, just kind of a montage of going through and learning things. So you have her at probably like 5 or 6 years old. I can't remember exactly what age she is at this point. Just struggling, struggling, struggling. And then towards the end is the end of her training. It immediately cuts from 6 to 19 years of age. And she's well versed in archery and hand to hand and tracking and hunting and climbing and everything that she would need to be a good Nora Brave.
Stabbing watchers in the face.
Yes. Now, do you want to talk about the machines a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's kind of an important part of the game, is these giant mechanical things that are walking around. Tyrannosaurus Rexes and bulls. And
So they are completely inorganic, right?
yes, they are completely inorganic from what we can tell. We learn later on that some models of these machines biofuel. They have a emergency they have an emergency function that allows them to convert biomass into fuel, which is actually a very big important of how the world ended up the way it is. So the machines,
It's not the machines that were created after that
it's
have
the
it.
machines
So
created for,
yeah, the machines that were created before the apocalyptic event happened, they are the ones that have the ability to convert biomass into energy and turn it into weapons and stuff like that. So the ones that we see in game, for the most part, and especially in the beginning and most of the opening sections, are all newly created machines that are created for very specific purposes.
To expand on that, yeah. So we see these machines. Machines, got it. The machines are, so in essence, the whole reason that the machines are actually here, with the exception of us pre-apocalyptic times, is these machines are terraformers, and the machines are actually part of a giant terraforming effort that was put out prior to or post the apocalypse by an AI we learn about later on. I don't know if you want to go into that now, or should I just expand on that now, or save that for later?
What we can do is we can just give a quick, brief rundown of what happened. So Aloy trains to the proving, wins the proving, then another tribe comes in and slaughters everybody except for like Aloy and a few people. And she is sent out by the heads of the tribe to go and figure out what's going on. Like, why did this happen? And she's deemed a seeker. So they take her essentially into the center of the mountain, because they live kind of in the Colorado area, if I remember correctly, as far as the geography of it.
Yep,
and
Colorado Springs.
So, which is kind of ironic for you.
Mm-hmm.
So they go into the mountain and they see, Aloy sees where she was found. She was not born, she was found inside the mountain in front of this doorway, which the doorway looks like Atheon's doorway slightly. It's very triangular base. And it scans her. It goes identiscan happening, and it gives her like a 99.4% match to something, but you don't know what. But this says the file is corrupted and the door doesn't open. And so that sends her out on the Seeker's mission to find out, A, how can she get into the door, and B, to find out what's going on with this tribe that attacked her tribe and killed all the people that basically went through the proving with her are all now dead. So she's trying to figure out those two things. In that, she starts to go out and start finding different bunkers that have been abandoned for the most part, and she starts to pick up tidbits of what happened before the event. I'll just call it the event for now. And that's where we start to learn about the different AI characters.
Mm-hmm.
You want to start that one?
So overarching in all of the AIs would be Gaia or Gaia Prime, or Gaia, depending on how you want to say it. Gaia was a super intelligent, full AI that was pretty much completely sentient from how I've taken it. She had feelings. She was pretty much a living being, and Gaia was in charge of pretty much re-terraforming the Earth after what happened during the event. She had 9, I think it was 9 subroutines, or I believe it was 9 subroutines that were in charge of they were in charge of tasks so that Gaia wouldn't have to do it all at the time. So Hephaestus was in charge of which cauldrons are like these factories for machines, any machines that Gaia could dream up or that Gaia would need to help re-terraform the planet. You have Hades, which was in charge of, if for some reason the terraforming effort failed, was in charge of wiping out all the terraforming efforts so Gaia could start again. There was Apollo, which was a repository for all of the collected information of mankind, and they even went as far as setting pretty much levels for the people that would come after the event, to so they could learn basic arithmetic and then move on to algebra and then calculus and things like that. It was the entire history of mankind. There was several others which I'm having trouble finding here for a second.
There's Aether, Poseidon, Demeter, Artemis, Eleuthia, and the other ones that you had mentioned. Minerva is another one.
Minerva,
the reason why this AI was created is because of what happened with the Faro disease, is what it's brought up as. And she discovers this because she finds a section she scans, and it says 350,000 days overdue for meeting with Faro. Glitch in chariot line peacekeepers. So you find out that Ted Faro, is this incredibly smart but just business savvy guy who created these different machines back in 2040, if I remember correctly. I can't remember exactly what year. It's around that time. But so Faro creates these machines, and then there's a glitch that happens within the coding of it, and this glitch caused for some of the things that would make the machines not be deadly to everybody, like keep them from self-replicating, keep the machines from being able to use biomass fuel unless absolutely needed, keep the machines from, there was one other thing that it keep them from doing, fuel it by divine, can't deactivate them due to polyphasic entangled waveform. So they couldn't actually deactivate the coding or any of the events that were happening with these machines. So the machines basically started consuming the earth, everything, plants, humans, worms, bugs, anything they can get their hands on. They started completely and utterly destroying. And it was projected that they only had 15 months to live. So Project Zero Dawn was the project that Faro and a very important character, Elizabeth Sobek, they created to help not necessarily save the human race, but make sure that the human race would endure eventually. And so Dr. Elizabeth Sobek is a very, very important character because she is originally the DNA sample in which we later find out that is Aloy. And she gathers together the brightest minds in the entire planet to create this AI setup. Now, Gaia is the only AI at this point. Everything underneath her, Hades, Minerva, Hephaestus, Aether, Poseidon, Demeter, Artemis, all of them, they're subroutines. They're not actually sentient at all. And so they created these AI, and then we find out that, let's see here, I'm losing my place in the notes a little bit.
You're at the actual like initiation of project.
Okay, so they initiated it, and Elizabeth Sobeck had to essentially sacrifice herself to close the door so the project would stay whole. So she jumps out and does that, and eventually dies in the process. And they find out that the Earth is completely overrun, completely everything's destroyed. There's bunkers that the people who worked on Zero Dawn, everyone was dead, everyone was killed. And we find out that Faro actually kind of sort of sabotages part of Zero Dawn. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Potato?
Yeah, so later on towards the end of the game, it jumps ahead a little bit, but like I said, Ted Faro was like, she nailed it on the head. He was a very savvy businessman. He was really intelligent. He was the leader of the Pharos Automated Solutions. They were pretty much like what would you call it? Like they're one of the top, they were like the richest corporation in the world. They made everything from eventually to these huge war machines which would spell the end of mankind. Well, the end of mankind for now. Yeah. And would eventually go on to, he was very successful. He eventually brought on Elizabeth Sobeck she was hired as she was a junior scientist with Pharos Automated Solutions, FAS. She was paramount in helping develop the cleanup solutions for the Earth because the Earth was in a pretty bad state prior to that. And eventually she became the chief scientist. Faro noticed that, and he then started to shift Faro Automated Solutions towards military tech, or what he disliked to call peacekeepers. He refused to call them war machines. Elizabeth got mad at this and eventually left. She left FAS and went on to do her own thing. She started developing like really green, kind of like green powered robotics technologies, stuff that would obviously later on help her with Gaia. And Faro continued to obviously acquire more wealth and get a little more powerful. And he eventually realized what was going on with one of his military swarms, as they were called, the swarms of robots, and eventually called Elizabeth back in to try to help fix the problem. Faro had insisted that on his military swarms, the Chariot line have no sort of back door, like into the code, so they couldn't be shut off if something went wrong, and therefore the swarm kind of glitched, took over itself, like she said, like Green said, and proceeded to pretty much annihilate the human race. Faro helped fund the Project Zero Dawn. At this point, though, he's starting to have really serious regrets about what happened. Obviously, he was ultimately responsible for the annihilation of the human race. And he agreed, Project Zero Dawn's great. Project Zero Dawn's great. And then right as Zero Dawn was kind of starting to take effect and they were starting to get ready to re-terraform the planet, he decided that, we shouldn't give the humans to come any sort of knowledge. They shouldn't get the knowledge. The knowledge is, and so he sucked all the air out of the chamber where the remaining scientists, or what was called the alpha scientist in the Zero Dawn bunker. He killed them in hopes that it would prevent Zero Dawn from completing itself, and that the humans that would come after them wouldn't suffer the same fate that he had done. His quote was saying, "Sometimes to protect the innocent," and he then vented the entire room of oxygen, killing that team. and we don't know what happens to him after that. But we're assuming he's dead. I mean, he could still be alive. There's mention of attempts in cryogenics, but they were still having issues with it. That's brought up. It's very partially noted somewhere in the game.
It's
But
hundreds
we
of
don't know
years
what's-
later, but it's
Yeah.
it's possible.
Mhm.
Some of the things. Okay, so kind of closing some of the gaps a little bit. The reason why Aloy was able to start finding these bunkers in the first place is because she encounters probably the most important. I don't know if I would call him a good guy, bad guy type characters in the game, voiced by none other than the voice actor who does Zavala for Destiny, is the character Silence. And she meets Silence fairly early on as just a mysterious voice. He talks to her through her focus, which is not a common thing. Like you don't see that most of the time, at least when it comes to Aloy, because she's never used it that way. Now, we find out later on that some of the other tribes, like the Karja, which is the tribe that attacked the Nora tribe originally, they use focuses pretty regularly, and they communicate orders over vast distances using a focus network. But Silence starts talking to Aloy and giving her hints on how she's going to be able to fix the entry into the door. And the way she has to do that is she has to repair by getting the Alpha Registry master file, and she has to go into these different bunkers. So she learns about Horizon Zero Dawn through going into these bunkers, and she learns about the AI, and she finally gets the master file. But then she's captured by a shadow group called the Eclipse. They're part of the Karja, kind of, sort of, not really. Like they're a subgroup of the Karja, like a cult of the Karja, and she's captured by them. And there's a guy from the very, very beginning who tried to kill her originally, who actually sliced open her neck a little bit at the very beginning of the game, who tries to kill her again by putting her essentially into a gladiatorial ring with a very large and angry rhinoceros type machine that has been controlled and corrupted, that has been corrupted by these machines that they had resurrected called corruptors. These are some of the original machines from Varro's day that they had brought back and resurrected because we have a bad guy that's going to start showing up in the game. So the corruptors come out and they corrupt these normal machines that were created by Gaia.
It was a behemoth.
A behemoth, yeah. I always think of it like the rhino because that's literally what its attack was. It was a charge attack. But so she's attacked by the behemoth. She survives that for the most part, and then Silence rides in and rescues her. So she finally meets him face to face. I don't remember if this is the first time she meets him. Is it? I can't remember.
I think it's the first time he actually appeared.
So Zavala plays like a Han Solo character in this. It's really cool.
I don't know if I'd say he's a Han Solo character, because
Han Solo has redeeming qualities?
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, okay. You want to talk about Silence a little bit before we start pushing forward with the story?
Sure. Do you want me to just do his backstory, like where it'll kind of expand on some of the other ones?
Yeah, because he's in part to blame for some of these problems, huh?
Yes, very much so. He set out with intentions, and things kind of interesting. So Silas is an interesting character along the lines because I see him as identifying with I think maybe like a chaotic neutral or something like that. He doesn't set out to create chaos. And so Silas was in he was in this world. He was actually part of his tribe. I don't think his tribe is ever actually revealed.
He was
Banuk?
part of.
Was he the Banuk?
Was he part of the Banuk? Because I know he worked with the Karja, because he was the one who established the Shadow Karja, or the Eclipse.
He established the Eclipse, but he was already an outcast from, and that's how he kind of came upon them.
Well, it says on the fandom wiki, Banuk is unrecorded.
Okay.
That's why I was going with that.
No, it works. Where the heck is it? I lost my place.
Sorry.
So Silent's main draw for everything he does in the game is he wants to understand. He wants to learn. Everything, every move he makes in game is for the purpose of him learning something or learning more about the history of what happened, or learning more about Aloy, or learning more about the different AI. That's his entire driving force throughout the entire game, even towards the end, which we'll find out a little bit later on how that ends up. But
So Silas, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So like I said, he's going through the world. He's dedicated his life trying to understand the old ones civilization, their technology, why the machines, why they are the way they are, why the machines are suddenly violent towards humanity because they used to not be before another event. So he's going along. He discovers probably one of the first focuses, and he spends weeks trying to repair it. He finally does repair it, and he's using it to kind of explore the technology, and he just comes across a very weak signal. The signal, he kind of follows it, and eventually he discovers what turns out to be one of Gaia's subroutines called Hades. So to explain, and he eventually repairs, I believe he repairs Hades or one of his communication devices a little bit, and starts having a conversation with Hades. Hades is promising him endless technology, the wonders of the old world. He's offering him everything he's ever wanted in return for doing some of Hades' bidding. And Hades wants him to repair more focuses and start spreading them out among, especially among the Carja and the Shadow Carja. Hades essentially wants to set up his command and control. If you're looking at it as a military side of things, he's trying to gather intelligence, and he starts showing the people how to resurrect these old machines, the Pharaoh Plague machines, which are like the Chariot Line machines, which we turn out to be the Corruptor and the I think it's Deathbringer, and then you have the Horus class, what they refer to as the Metal Devil, which is like a Titan class. It's a very big machine, which we don't actually ever see moving in the game.
So it might be a little confusing because beforehand I said that Hades is only a subroutine. And originally, Hades was a subroutine. Him and all the other god-type names, except for Gaia, were subroutines of Gaia and functioned completely under her.
Mm-hmm.
But about 20 years ago, right before Aloy was born, Gaia Prime, which is the main AI center, received a data transmission of unknown origins. Its immediate effect was to transform the subordinate functions into unregulated self-aware entities of a highly chaotic nature. It then awakened Hades' function, which seized control of the terraforming system and started to reverse operations, rendering life on Earth extinct in possibly 53.8 days. So all of the subroutines that were still left, because remember, Apollo is completely decimated because Pharaoh deleted it essentially before it got there.
Mm-hmm.
All the other subroutines were given AI status. They became completely aware and broke off of the Gaia routine. Gaia had no control over them. She couldn't tell them anything. They just completely detached from her and were able to both physically and electronically do things on their own. So Hades is an AI, self-aware at this point, but its main function still exists. Its main function is to destroy. Now, it hasn't had the regulatory factor of Gaia telling him you don't need to because everything turned out fine, because Hades wasn't supposed to go into effect unless something was wrong with creation. But there's nothing wrong with creation. Now he's an AI doing whatever he wants at this point. So that's why Hades is actually considered kind of a bad guy at this point, because he's moving everybody around. The Karja, the Shadow Karja, Silence. He's using them as pawns to get what he wants, which is to resurrect all of the old machines that ate biomass and completely destroy everything again. That's his whole purpose, and that's what he's trying to do, and he's controlling everybody to get there.
Perfect. That's actually a perfect segue. So like she said, Hades kind of became self-aware, and Silas is still communicating with him. He learned. What does it say? It says he learned physics, computer engineering, calculus, and he was instrumental in helping a faction known as the Eclipse Cult to serve Hades. He developed the focus network that allowed the Eclipse members to communicate and see what others were looking at. Silas was a little wary of Hades' motivation, and so he actually created a back door into the focus network, the communications network, so he could listen to all of the communications within the network. And he continued to help them resurrect the old machines from the Pharaoh plague. After he completed the focus network, and he began to question Hades, like for awakening all the Pharaoh robots and stuff like that, Hades decided that Silas was no longer useful and ordered his death. Silas managed to escape, and he's been on the run pretty much ever since from Hades and his influence. He then starts learning about Aloy's existence during Aloy's proving. Aloy encounters a character named Olin, and Olin actually has a focus. This is the first time Aloy's seen anyone else in the world with a focus. And that immediately, since Hades is in that network, he immediately knows that she is like a genetic descendant of Elizabeth Sebek. So, go ahead.
Go
Green.
for it. Go for it.
Okay. Yep. So, like tying back to Aloy's proving, they try to the Eclipse cult tries to come and kill Aloy at Hades' command. Hades realizes that this is, Gaia's last attempt to try to stop him from carrying out his function. And like she said, since he's a fully functioning AI, he's just going off of his programming. He's like, the world has to end. I don't care what's still here. He's going at it.
So the way that Gaia does this is she actually orders her prime reactor, which holds her as well, to overload, and it supposedly would destroy Hades, but it would also destroy Gaia and all the other subroutines in and of itself. But because Hades was detached from Gaia during that transmission and everything, Hades was able to escape. Sorry,
yes.
didn't mean to jump back a little bit.
You're filling in the gaps that I'm leaving, so I appreciate it. Silas eventually does start contacting Aloy. He said he eventually reveals that he's kind of been watching her since Olin, the character from just before her proving, when Olin first saw her, he saw her as well. He goes on to really start revealing all of the stuff that happened in the past to Aloy, because Aloy is on this path to figure out pretty much what happened to the world at this point. He doesn't know everything, but he kind of plays it off like he does. He's very arrogant in the way I wouldn't say arrogant, I say condescending in the way he speaks. He does something similar to what Ross does. He trying to make her ask the question, and then if she asks a stupid question, he just kind of berates her. It makes for a pretty funny dialogue. And together with Silas's help, she starts finding these bunkers and finding the connections to Gaia and Hades and all of the other subroutines and the actual what Project Zero Dawn was. Pretty much up like to maybe the last, I would say, act of the game, the last act. We don't know what Project Zero Dawn was. And I know I'm kind of getting sidetracked. I apologize. It's just a big portion of the story is finding out. Aloy really wants to know, besides, where she is and who Elizabeth Setback is, and this is my mother, and she's like, what is Zero Dawn and why is it so important? And Silas wants to know the same thing. So that's really his big motivation. He
Right.
really wants to figure out what happened to the old world. He's,
And
you know,
yeah, right. Like Potato said, you don't find out exactly what happened. I know we've kind of explained everything that's happened because we're going through and trying to explain what all these things are in a very, very short amount of time. But you literally don't find out until you get the Omega clearance, which is the master list that, remember, the registry that was corrupted, that she wasn't able to get into the door. You literally don't find out about Elizabeth Sobek to the fullest extent and what her story is until you repair that. And the way you do that was getting to get that master clearance list. She goes back, she gets that and goes in there and she learns about all of this. She learns about Elizabeth's death, about how she sacrificed herself because the door didn't shut completely like it was supposed to, and she had to go out and manually shut it in this very what is that video game called? Biomass? No, Fallout. Very much so in a
yeah,
Fallout
Fallout.
type suit. And so we learn about a lot of the emotional stuff that happens in the game, who Aloy is. She's literally a clone of Elizabeth Sobek that was from DNA stuff saved by Gaia all these years. Was not recreated except for after Gaia had to do the self-destruction mode because of the transmission that corrupted everything. So
It's
we learned. Nope,
no,
go
I
for
was
it,
just
Jess.
gonna say, does anyone else kind of get the Halsey Cortana parallel here?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely has that feel to it. Except for all the AI in this, even though it has kind of the Halsey Cortana, and the Gaia herself was created by Elizabeth Sobek. Elizabeth Sobek was one of the main programmers for Gaia. She doesn't necessarily have the exact replica aspect that Cortana has of Halsey.
Mm-hmm.
She's definitely her own person because in game she's portrayed as a beautiful black woman, whereas Elizabeth Sobek is what you see in Aloy, a redhead with short hair, a little bit older.
Oh, okay.
So you find out that Silence's story. Oh, so okay, we find out finally what Hades is after, and Silence kind of figures it out with the help of Aloy, and they figure it out together. And we find out that Hades is actually after the spires. Now, throughout the world, there's a couple of different spires, which are transmitters. Think of like our radio towers or cell phone towers. And they were originally used by Minerva, which is one of those subroutines. And what Minerva used them for was to shut down and deactivate the Farah robots. But Hades wants to use the towers to reverse it, to wake them up and start de-terraforming everything, start destroying everything throughout that. So Silence and Aloy kind of sort of hatch a plan together to figure out how they are going to stop Hades from doing that. And do you want to take over from there, Potato?
Sure, yeah. So at that point, Aloy has all of the pretty much the master override, like Green said, and she realizes that she has to get this information to the Spire that Minerva, or to prevent Hades to destroy Hades, as well as stop the activation of all the pre-terraforming machines. So she does this by she kind of rallies the tribes. At this point, she's kind of made contact with almost in the game world that we know of, and she sent them to a city that's owned by the Carja called Meridian. Meridian is actually built, or I believe it's built or located near one of these spires. And so pretty much all the machines that the Eclipse have amassed and all of the bad guys that Hades has brought together are on their way to Meridian. And they want to get Hades to Meridian, or get Hades to Meridian so that he can broadcast that reactivation signal. Aloy gets to Meridian, and along with her and her allies, they the final battle begins, it's a huge conflict between these tribes. It's a lot of explosions. There's a lot of people dying. You lose some minor characters, like people from the Bannock tribe are killed. I know the Nora there. The Nora also come back. The Nora come to help Meridian because Aloy told them to be there and try to help Meridian. And excuse me. The battle ensues. There's Deathbringers. There's Corruptors. The Corruptors and Deathbringers are a lot of the Pharaoh machines that we see are from the before the terraforming event. And he is there. It's an all-out attack on the city, and they're mostly able to hold it back until Hades and his forces break through and make a beeline for the tower. They overrun the defenders there, and Hades gets into position. He's pretty much in it almost looks like what's like the public event from Destiny when the Warsat fault. He almost looks like a smaller minus the spikes. And he gets hooked up to the tower that he was moving towards, and he starts to broadcast this signal. We have a cutscene where we start seeing all the ancient Pharaoh machines start to reawaken. They all immediately start trying to convert any biomass in the area into fuel, and it looks like things are about to just go the way of the apocalypse again.
What's been kind of funny is they literally had to drag Hades, because Hades is like what Potato said. He looks like a Warsat without the spikes. He's this mass, this hairball of fury and red, and it's being dragged behind, I think, one of the Deathbringers actually. And he's
dragged by Deathbringer.
He's pulled into position and is hooked up, and it starts signaling out. And so all these other Pharaoh machines start waking up. There's a really sad cutscene where there's like a little kid playing soccer, and this death machine just comes up and starts to kill the plants that are around the kid. And the kid is just like, oh no. And
run.
Yeah. So that happens, and there's a final battle where you battle a Deathbringer, if I remember correct.
It's like a super enhanced Deathbringer. It's got like a cannon on it. It's got like it's a way more upgraded Deathbringer than we see throughout the game.
Right. So you take it down with the help of some of your friends that you've made, because some of these side quests that you do actually give you characters that you can pull in the final battle that will help you. Some of them are not just side quests. Some of them are part of the main quest that you have to do. But there's Aaron and I can't think of the name of the kid, the brother to
Teb.
The girl from the Teb.
Yeah.
Well, is not Teb. The girl from the Proving, because Teb is the seamstress.
Yeah. Varl, Varl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have your friends who are helping you fight this giant machine at the end. You take them down, and then the final scene, well, one of the final scenes where you take out Hades. The reason why you're able to take out Hades is because you have the Omega clearance, like I said earlier, and like Potato was saying, but also because Silence helped you attach the Omega clearance to his spear, a very special spear that Silence made. Now this becomes important here in a little bit, because we find out a little bit later that Silence isn't as good of a guy as we thought. So
yeah,
you take the Omega clearance, attach it to Silence spear, and she stabs basically what looks like an eye port for Hades, and immediately goes into a cutscene. Now I can't remember for some reason what the cutscene was.
I got you.
She's getting electrocuted.
Yep. And I think it's also a link between her and the tower, or the spire as well. And a giant manifestation of Gaia appears next to the tower, which is completely encased in red. And she says, like, Alpha Protocol override, something along those lines. And says, do you want to proceed, show authorization? And Aloy says, yes, Elizabeth Beck, Alpha Prime. And that cleanses the subroutine of Hades. It terminates Hades' function at that point. The tower, there's a very bright light. The tower kind of erupts into this giant blue light. This cleansing light just washes over the land. there, yeah, it shoots up into the sky. It's kind of like, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of Halo. Like right as the supercarrier in Halo 2 goes to war or goes to slip space, there's that very large explosion, just minus the destruction, and we see all these ancient machines that were coming back to life suddenly just shut down. All the tribesmen that were trying to fight them are, poking at them with sticks, making sure they're dead, and we see Aloy does in fact survive. Well, we knew that because there's going to be a DLC here pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited for that. We see a brief cutscene where she actually leaves the spear, like Green said, and she goes and pretty much, signals that the battle is over. She holds her bow above her head. There's a lot of cheering. People are clapping. She runs into her friends on the hill that have survived and things like that. It's kind of a nice. There's a little bit of there's more to come, but that's pretty much like the end of the threat of Hades at this point. I'm not 100% sure if Gaia is now reactivated at this point, or if she's like begun her rebuilding.
Well, Gaia Prime can be rebuilt inside of the master. Yeah, so she can be brought back, but she's not yet. It's just her function that was the master override or the Omega clearance is what shut him down. So the final scene, we get Elizabeth's journal, and you hear Gaia talking to Elizabeth Sobek, and you see Aloy walking, and you see Aloy walking towards this kind of rundown farmhouse type place with lots of flowers and beautiful green grass and everything, and you hear the story about Elizabeth as a child and how she set something on fire.
Yeah, and it burned a tree and killed the birds in the tree.
Right, and her mother was telling her that basically being smart will count for nothing if you don't make the world better. You have to use your smarts to count for something, to serve life, not death. And this whole scene, you see Aloy just see this character that is sitting up on this bench or propped up on this bench, and you realize that that is Elizabeth Sobek, or what's left of her remains inside of this metal machine type covering, that she had made her way back to a home type place after saving everybody and making sure that the gates were closed or the doors were closed so people wouldn't be attacked by the robots. And then the screen comes out and you see a giant triangle, which is kind of the motif of Gaia and the AI and stuff like that. And then you get to, there's a globe trinket. Did you catch that one? A little globe that she pulls up. Yeah, that's a super cute thing. And then we see Silence, and we see, we don't see Silence. We see Hades. So you see some tribesmen going to poke at different things, and one of the things they went up and poked was Hades' corpse, essentially this ball that's dead. And he doesn't quite get to poking distance, but he gets pretty close, and you see a stream of red light shoot out of the corpse up into the air and takes off over the landscape. And it goes into a little lantern-like device that Silence created, our good old buddy Silence. And he essentially says some of the most ominous things I've ever heard in game. He says, "Hello, old friend, remember me? We have so much to discuss, so much you never revealed. Your masters, for example, the ones who sent the signal that woke you. Knowledge has its rewards, don't you think? Well, let's begin." And that's the end of the game. And it cuts to a giant machine in the background. Oh god, it's terrifying. It's a great ending to the game, and it makes me furious at the same time. But yeah, that's the summary. There's so much little things we can unpack, but that's the rundown of it.
That's why I'm really happy you're here, Green, because I was jumping around dig into to go back and forth with it because everything kind of connects at some point. And I mean, it goes into there's I mean, you haven't even touched on the topic of the different tribes and how they interact and their social structure and social ladders, how they interact with each other, the different weapons, the machines themselves, like the difference between the machines that are in the world now and then the machines that are being brought back, and just like the design and aesthetics of each one, and how the machines that we're seeing now are, most of them are for terraforming processes, but in the game lore, some of these machines are actually showing up for the first time, and there's a reason for that, and it's actually has to do with another AI. But yeah, there's just so much to dig into. We can kind of go into that a little bit if we have.
Oh yeah, we've got time to do that kind of thing. One of the things that I think is most interesting is the fact that most of the tribes are incredibly religious, some more so than others, but they have this very tribalistic idea of what's going on. They see the machines, but they don't understand that it's a science thing. But Aloy does. Aloy understands the mechanics. She doesn't understand exactly how it happens, but she knows there's a reason for it, that it's not. So a character that's brought up a lot in the beginning is Allmother, which is the goddess that takes care of the Nora tribe. Allmother basically refers to the sun, a sun goddess who brings life to everything around you, which obviously brings to mind Gaia. But the Nora themselves are super uber suspicious about anything that's not considered natural, hence not being able to go into the machine world, the banishment of Aloy, or like the outcasting of Aloy because she is not born by a mother. There's one particular elder who just does not like Aloy at all, and she's kind of a pain in your butt at the opening for the first 19 years of your life, because her and some of her croonies are not very kind to you. She never does anything to hurt you, but she's just very biting old woman. There's so many fun things to unpack.
Yeah.
Religious aspects, the mechanic aspects, the game mechanic aspects. I mean, there's so many fun things in this game. Justin, I really think you need to get it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting. It's a pretty good story. So all the machines were created by Hephaestus, weren't they?
Hephaestus, yeah. Well, the terraforming machine.
The original machines were
Yes,
the ones
yes.
for the Deathbringers were
excluding the post-event machines, the new ones. Okay, so all the original ones were.
Now, Hephaestus was literally not the knowledge of what to make, but how to make.
Yeah, he was the subroutine that executed the command to make them.
Right. Gaia had free control to create whatever she wanted or whatever she needed. That was the main command, is create what you need. And so everything that was created has a purpose in the world, kind of like Potato said, there were some things that showed up later that you didn't see before, but they had a purpose because of everything going on.
Oh, that makes sense.
To expand on that, like when that signal came down and Hephaestus sees, he doesn't outright like think humanity is like a complete humanity as a threat to his machines, and therefore that's why the machines started getting a little more aggressive. Originally, before that happened, the machines almost avoided humanity like deer avoid a hunter. You know, if they hear them, they run away. They're very shy. They weren't aggressive. After the event, the unknown signal that caused Gaia to have to self-destruct and the activation of the AIs, or the subroutines into AIs, Hephaestus started saying, okay, you know, we can play a little hardball now. You know, they started getting a little more aggressive. He also noticed that as humanity was hunting the machines for supplies and materials and resources, he started developing pretty much combat ready machines, not along the lines of like the Pharaoh Plague type machines, but that's where we get the Thunderjaw. That's where you get that big Tyrannosaurus Rex looking machine. That's where you get where is it? The stalkers, like the combat
the tiger,
machines. The stalker, the ravager, the sawtooth, the stormbird, Thunderjaw. These were all machines that was supposed to be combat. They were supposed to defend herds of the other machines, the terraforming machines, from humanity. And that's why you'll see in the game, you'll see what are called like shell walkers or striders, and they're like these grazers, these things that are like tearing up the soil and terraforming. You'll see that they're guarded by some of these combat ready machines, in the Thunderjaw, the Sawtooth, the Ravager, and they're there to defend the herd. And
Even Watchers.
yeah, the Watchers weren't there originally. The Watchers were there, put into effect as scouts, along with the long leg, which actually is probably one of the coolest like tower map reveal mechanics I've seen in any game ever.
It's a giant brontosaurus with
with a giant head. The flat head, and you actually have to like find a place to climb up onto this thing and climb up its neck, and it keeps walking around while you're doing it, but it reveals large sections of the map, kind of like the towers did in Assassin's Creed.
Okay, so there's actually different classes of machines.
Yes,
too, I'm
I was just about to hit you with that too.
Oh, cool. Well,
Yeah.
hit away.
The terraformers, like I say, the terraformers encompasses all the machines. You have the terraforming one, Grazer, the Broadhead, the Charger, the Trimmer, and the Rockbreaker. These machines are there to help plant life thrive. They move dirt, they reset. They pretty much are resetting the planet. You have purifying type machines, which is along the Strider, the Snapmaw, and the Lancehorn, and these are actually designed to assist the sub functions of Poseidon and Aether. They were there to purify water. They were there to filter out toxins and things in the atmosphere and the marine biosphere. Pretty much be able to make sure there's fish again, make sure there's whales and sharks and all this. You have recyclers, recyclers are really kind of cool because you can see how thought out this whole process was when they made this terraforming program. Recyclers fall into the Scrapper and Glinthawk, and these are literally machines that go out, and if like a machine breaks down or it has like issues where it can no longer function, the Scrapper will go out, recycle all that stuff, and bring it back to be reused by the Cauldrons. Glinthawks are almost like they almost look like vultures, like really huge vultures. And then the Scrapper almost looks like I don't really know what you call it. It looks like a boar, a very angry boar. You go into next, you have the transport class machines. These are machines that are designed to bring materials here and there between cauldrons or wherever they're needed to help with the terraforming. You have the Shell Walker, which looks like a crab with a giant container on its back. Fire Bellowbacks and Freeze Bellowbacks, which almost look like the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park, but instead of having a spine on its back, it has this giant canister, and they can breathe fire. They can breathe like this freezing, which they call chill water. It's almost like it's to help facilitate functions in the atmosphere, or clear out large swaths of land that need to be burned down to help rejuvenate it's like pretty much makes forest fires and things like that, so it rejuvenates itself. Then you go into the recon class machines. These machines are really simple, but they started showing up a little bit more in force once the AIs became, or the subroutines became AIs. But the Watchers were originally used. They were there to find land that was suitable for terraforming. Like, not the whole planet wouldn't be able to be terraformed at the same time. So the Watchers would go out and find a place that this place is good, report back to Gaia. Gaia would send the machines. And then obviously the machines that are newest to the front are the combat class machines, which are your Sawtooth, giant saber-toothed tiger. The Ravager, which is like a different form of the Sawtooth except gun, and it's a little bit faster. The Stalker, which is like this machine that it almost looks like a jaguar that can turn invisible. That thing's a big pain. Stormbird, these massive hawks, like they almost look like eagles.
No, it's a Thunderbird. It's a Native American Thunderbird. Yeah, that's what because that's what it's defending the mountain. It's defending the top of the mountain when she's going in to get into the Omega Code.
I didn't even look
cool.
Yeah, it hangs out near
near where?
Meridian.
Mm-hmm. They also have kind of a religion that ties into like that Native American Thunderbird
very
type
much
tradition.
So.
And they have all these names of the machines all feel like they were named by some sort of indigenous tribe of people. All of the names are indicative of like the the machine's appearance or
It's very to the
or
point.
its function.
Yeah. And like
I'm
the first time I rode across the pretty much in my backyard, which like Green said earlier is kind of ironic for me. Um, the Stormbird, yeah, I was riding across the desert and I didn't even see the thing, and all I heard was this like this really like loud coughing, and I look up and I just instantly dead, spewed across the desert. I was like, what was that? And I was like, and then I just decided to go the long way around at that point because it kept killing me.
It shoots off lightning from its wings.
Oh,
It's
the thing's amazing.
super cool.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I have it up on my screen here, and the thing, I don't think I've even.
It's-
They're hard to take down.
I'm actually getting a very strong Land Before Time vibe with the naming of the animals here.
It
Mhm.
has that, but there's also names that you would recognize. There's obviously the AI are based off of the god functions of different mythological backgrounds. You have kind of the Gaia and Apollo and Minerva and all these
Yeah.
different god names. They describe exactly what their function is. There's a few that are a little bit more obscure than just your normal Greek or Roman gods, but they're still very descriptive of what they originally were. Like Eleuthia. Eleuthia is the preservation of the human genome. So that was literally the subfunction that took all the cloning material.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you can actually which subroutine the machines serve actually kind of speaks to their purpose too.
Right. Yeah, like I actually took a Thunderjaw down today, and it was like I think only one of the few I've ever taken down. And but the Thunderjaw is probably like one of the. I mean, it's like the motto. I wouldn't say or the mascot of the game almost next to Aloy. Like it's the thing that really grabbed people's attention when it was first shown. All these machines are beautifully rendered in game. The set. If you play this game, play it with headphones. That's how I play, and the sound coming off these machines, every single one is very iconic. Like, you're like, okay, that's a Watcher, okay, that's a Sawtooth, okay, that's a Thunderjaw. You can tell what these like the sound design in this game is gorgeous. And I'm getting off topic, but yeah, the machines all have like this very important purpose. I mean, they don't, they're not good and they're not evil. They're just there doing a job, and they're being influenced by obviously outside factors. They can either be really great allies, which you do have the ability in game to override the machines and have them fight for you. So you can like override a Thunderjaw and have it fight another Thunderjaw.
You don't gain that right away. That's something you get
No,
a
you
little
don't
bit
know.
into the
You
game.
have to. It's like a character progression kind of thing. You have to go into your characters, or Aloy discovers these places called cauldrons, and cauldrons are, like they mentioned in the Project Zero Dawn, they're a function of Gaia and the subroutine Hephaestus, and they're pretty much the forges that create these machines. They're almost like giant, massive 3D underground printers, except they use like electricity and obviously way more advanced technology than we have now.
If you wait at the end of the game and look through the credits, when the credits are rolling, you're literally flying through a cauldron area multiple times. It just kind of cycles the same progression, but it's beautiful to watch.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
interesting. You can see all the different parts working and like maneuvering throughout the cauldron, delivering
Mhm.
things, and it's a really neat cutscene at the end that it's active. That's the other thing, is
Yeah.
that is an active cauldron. So for some reason, if Hephaestus didn't die with Gaia, or if Gaia isn't dead, somebody or something is making more machines. If they're not done. They're still creating. So sequel, or at least
Yeah.
DLC, we've got some stuff coming in.
I'll be a little bit of a nerd here. It's like I actually sat and watched 2 or 3 minutes when I went into my. I think it was making a bellow back or something like that, but it was just so interesting to watch like the animations of these like things just kind of making this machine like right in front of you, and it was again, the sound design is unbelievable. Blue Thunder's in chat. He's asking about, that's actually a pretty important it's called a subterfuge that really played into the plot a little bit, but at least the plot beforehand, if you want to talk about that.
What
Yeah.
did he ask?
He asked if we've talked about Operation Enduring Victory.
Oh, yeah. So that was the orbital launch base outside of Bryce, Utah. So that was
That was where Project Zero Dawn started, I think.
right, but that's
Yeah.
when they had the meeting. That's where they had the meeting for
Right.
that. It's
Okay.
the staging area. So
Mhm.
Enduring Victory is kind of disturbing because
Yeah.
what literally happens is Elizabeth Sobek and Faro's the main mouthpiece on this, describe to a bunch of generals that have been gathered in this area that what the situation is, and literally say that they just need time bought. And the generals like are arguing, like saying, can you put out machines, can you put out drones, can you put out all these different things to try to prevent men and women from going out there. And literally the way that the Faro machines can work is they can corrupt, they can take over any machine that they throw at them. So they literally have to put and sacrifice hundreds of thousands of people to stave off the machines long enough for this Horizon Zero Dawn, or for the program to be completed, because there's no saving the human race anyway. They already knew that the human race was going to be completely wiped out in this event, but they, in order to survive past the event, not even for them to survive, but for the human race to be able to come back, they have to sacrifice and put people in the way and essentially lie to people to get them to go and try to stop the machines, saying that it's possible to stop the machines when they know it's not possible to stop the machines. And so they create a war to try to stave off everything and sacrifice everybody in the process.
Project Zero Dawn was actually revealed to the civilian population as essentially as this super weapon that would save humanity, the Horde. It would, it would turn the tide, or turn the tide. We would win, and it was just a big farce, And that was there's actually a section of the game where that is revealed, that like Blusher just said in the chat, put a railgun in the hands of every able-bodied citizen, and go fight while we work on this super weapon here. And there's a section of the game where you finally are revealed that Project Zero, or Enduring Victory, was just a big scam, essentially, to save time until Zero Dawn could be completed. And there's a section where you can go into the game, and it actually, you find data points, which are actually audio recordings of these counselors talking to these scientists that were brought into the Zero Dawn program. And it was revealed to them that, hey, we're done. Like, Enduring Victory, not going to happen. Like, Zero Dawn is literally a reset, and we're going to lose. And there's actually this counselor is talking to these different scientists, and they're in different states of psychological shock, essentially. They're, one's like, oh, I can't believe this is happening, and the other one's finds out Ted Faro was to blame for it, so he gets really upset and is trying to make his way away from the counselor, and they're freaking out, and then they finally ask him, hey, do you want to be a part of this project? And a lot of them are like, yes, and other ones say no, and it's just this really kind of this psychological gut check in the middle of the game. And Aloy is really torn up about it, because she thought Project Zero Dawn was life survives. They did it.
But it's in the name.
Yeah. And yeah, it's in the name. And Aloy's refusing to believe it until literally the hologram of says, this is what Zero Dawn is. It's not a save all. It's literally a reset. And we're gonna build the technology to re-terraform Earth and give humanity essentially a second chance. And yeah, that was, again, it was a gut check. I was sitting there going, oh, okay, that's interesting, Isn't it Project Bright? Yeah, Justin, Bright Tomorrow. Um,
It makes you wonder. I mean, what would you do in that situation if you knew that the entire human race was going to be ultimately destroyed and that there was no stopping it? I mean, and you had to make the decision of if the only chance that we have to have any sort of impact on the future and to make sure that the rock that we live on that is called Earth is not just this desolate
Husk.
yeah, just with machines, completely machine taken over rock for the rest of eternity. I mean, what would the decision that you would make? Do you think you could make the decision to say, yeah, we're gonna put a railgun in people's hands and send them out there to die, to sacrifice themselves to buy us time?
It's there's a meeting that the United States and the other generals and Elizabeth's there, and she's they're pretty much proposing the idea, and the generals are like not having it. The chief of staff is like, listen, I don't like it either, but we need this is all we've got. There's literally nothing else we can do. And it really does a good job of instilling this sense of hopelessness, even though these characters have been dead literally thousands of years, or at least 1,000 years at this point. It shows you the desperations of the time, and it's not just emphasized there. It's emphasized in other parts of the game. You can go to these places called viewpoints, and it gives like a holographic representation of what the area used to look like. There's actually one that kind of threw me for a loop, is when I realized it actually was where I thought it was in the game. It actually shows like a holographic rendition of Colorado Springs. And I'm like, okay, that's just creepy, because I'm pretty sure I'm just going on like a spin foil thing here. I'm pretty sure one of the roads that is in that image is actually a road called South Nevada, which I live off of.
It's a really nice touch.
Yeah, it really
It's
is. And
so much depth to it.
they did a very good job instilling that. And those holographic images are audio recorded guy who's pretty much like reliving his life. He's like telling his life story, and he tells it, he's like, a pocket crap storm day 9, and he's talking about like how everything's going down the tubes, and how he wishes he had done something differently with his wife, with his parents and stuff like that. And so you really just get this overwhelming sense of just doom, and it just really brings that old world and makes you see what they went through. Bluster, I see in the chat there. Where are those viewpoints? If you look on the map, they're represented by an eyeball symbol. You have to go to them and then scan them with your focus, and it'll bring up the image, and you can, I think, press triangle. It'll bring up the audio and the actual visual. But yeah, I don't even know where to go from there. There's so much you can dive into, and we can do 3 or 4 episodes too.
Oh yeah, like even just the holographic replays of the last, like, I don't even know if they're the last few moments of people's lives. Some of them are, but some of them are just like really eventful moments. Like the very first one you see is this father saying, "Happy birthday, Isaac." It's
Daddy
like,
loves you.
yeah, Daddy loves you. How's my
That's how
little
they open the game.
Yeah, it's one of the openings. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
you can tell it's kind of a semi-sad moment, because you can kind of tell he's recording it, but at the same time, is Isaac really there? You just get some really heartfelt, emotional tie-ins for any kind of emotional tie-in. There's so many different ones. One of the most gut-wrenching scenes for me is when you discover that it's where Apollo is supposed to be, and you see that there are children that were brought back from or that were created by Eleuthia and the subroutines. They were supposed to go through the Apollo program, but the Apollo program was deleted, and so they don't understand. All they have is some of the subroutines trying to tell them and guide them as best they can, without having the knowledge base to be able to teach them anything. And they have to be restricted in this bunker until the terraformed world is safe enough for them to be able to go outside. And it's a Fallout scene. It's literally Fallout Shelter,
Yep.
but played out very personally, and you see these different moments where you see a boy and a girl get in trouble for being on bunk together. You see just these, they're mad because they can't go into this door because this door is blocked, and so they destroy kind of things around it and paint red marks all over it. There's just so many nice emotional touches that pull you more into what happened, not just from a mental standpoint but from an emotional standpoint, because you see what the people went through. So good.
Uh, just to kind of get like, it's just like what those people were going through, and kind of going back way farther than that before the whole is just kind of give you like an idea of what the old world looked like. The apocalypse stuff never really started happening, I believe, until I want to say like 2080 something or something like that. I don't or something. Let me see here. Well, at this point, it's like Earth is pretty much going the way of the dodo. There's a lot of environmental catastrophe. 36, New Zealand is submerged under the ocean. Climate refugees are going all over the place, and that's when Pharaoh kind of comes around and starts like trying to fix everything with technology, and it looks like everything's going to be okay, obviously, until the Pharaoh plague hits. By 2055, the U.S. Armed Forces disband all combat forces in favor of fully automated military. This gives you an idea of the like technological advancements these guys were going on. When you play the game, you look at the world. Everything is, you hear like this one guy say, he's like, oh yeah, I've got all these old like original hard copy media of stuff. And he's like, what? You didn't digitize it? Because the whole world at this point was like, it was holograms. Everything was hyperspeed, hyperspeed interactions between people.
He's a hipster, man. Don't hate on his records.
Oh no, it's not like that. But I mean, like, people were, yeah. But yeah, people were like, what do you still have that old media for? And things like that. They were trying to build a colony ship. They were like literally trying to build Earth's first colony ship called the Odyssey. They were trying to get it into orbit to try to go to other worlds, other solar systems. Like the civilization was essentially thriving. But one of the things you really see is kind of like this overtake of corporate interest. I noticed that a lot in a lot of the little like lore grimoire stuff that they have, and it was really interesting, seeing like, oh, the corporations can now influence political things legally, and now a lot of the military stuff is all run by machines, essentially. The United States Air Force, 2045, the United States Air Force point to be 60 to 70% automated. The U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs was offering a level 300 class on the age of human air power. Like, it was offering a class on, what we have today, single, double-seater jet fighters, but now they're all automated by drones. I mean, this world is super technological. And so for it to just collapse under itself like that is just really kind of, I can't imagine what it would have been like.
Fun.
Yeah, it's really well thought out. That's all I can say.
Is this billed as a multi-title frame?
As a standalone or as in a series? Because I know they're planning on making a second one, if I remember correctly.
Let me see if I can find the DLC. I can't remember the DLC.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, this is really, really extensively fleshed out, and seems to have the potential to have at least, 2 or 3 games.
It's called the DLC is going to be the Frozen Wild.
Nice.
So I'm guessing they're going to go north, is where I'm thinking they're
going. Ooh, so there's going to be some Banuk stuff.
Yeah,
going to happen.
They touch on the Banuk very lightly in the game. They're only kind of like they show themselves once or twice, but they're not really big.
Like, so yeah, actually, I was looking at some of the very rare outfits, and I was looking at the Banuk Ice Hunter, and I can kind of see like maybe some similarities between that one and Silence's attire.
Yeah. Actually is interesting. That brings up a good little transition into. and like how they dress and like their like Green was saying earlier, it's kind of like their social interactions with each other, including like their religion or how they look at nobility and things like that. Where the Nora, I see a very big Native American influence. A lot of furs, pelts, things like that. They're very religious in the terms of the machines and the old world and things like that. The Karja, I kind of get a Mayan, kind of like South American, early civilization kind of feel off of them. And then you can see in like the Shadow Karja and the Eclipse that are almost like offsets of them. They have like very similar garb, but the Eclipse kind of have like almost like an African death mask kind of thing going on.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we can go into. You could probably make a podcast by itself on Horizon Zero Dawn. There's enough to go into as far as the social interactions, the AI, the Horizon Zero Dawn project, the different scientists that came in from all over the world, what their thought process were. I mean, we could break up and make this a multi-episode type podcast itself in and of this one game. It's easy to do. Super easy. I mean,
the Banuk figure is nightmare fuel. I just need for that not to exist. It's just like an effed up llama.
But I mean, yeah, like the tribes, you can talk about the tribes and their. I mean, I know that's all. People want to really dig that into that on their own, and
yeah.
Well,
we've got to leave something for the update.
Yeah,
when we come back.
That, and I mean, like Potato said, if you want to jump in and find out more about it, definitely jump into the mind map. It's been fleshed out pretty darn well, I think. The people who have worked on that pretty extensively, which cough was not me this time, but I watched them. I did a lot of the other research this time. I didn't do the mind map so much this time, but all the hard work that went into that is pretty extensive. It's not conclusive because there's still a lot to dig into within the game, but if you want to get some really good connection stuff, just dig into that.
Yeah.
And if you really, really want to, I'm sure we could twist Blue's arm and call the Allfather back into this and have him make a room dedicated to just Horizon Zero Dawn within our Discord chat. So definitely come into Discord with us. If you've never talked to us before, come into Discord and pester Blue and say that we need a Horizon Zero Dawn chat, because I'm sure he would be
New rooms? New rooms?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's not pestering him. That's what his subroutine is made for. That's
We should make us a bot called Hafez.
Yeah.
No, don't tempt me. Don't tempt me.
He'll do it.
Oh, to the makers of things, please make it be.
Well, I think that's a pretty good place to wrap up.
Yeah.
Justin,
I like it.
I like it.
Do you have any shout outs or anything?
Yeah, I do have a few shout outs. Big shout out to, I believe it was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, our very own Blue Crew 86 turned undisclosed. It was his birthday.
That would require calculations that I'm not quite comfortable making at this point.
Are you 30 yet?
Oh, I'm past that.
Okay, cool. I'm not that salty then. But yeah,
By
happy
one.
birthday, Blue.
I'm
meant
past
to-
it by one.
Yeah. I meant to tell you that the other day, but I was like, he doesn't even know how old he is. He didn't care. Like, I can tell him when we podcast next.
that tail end of that comment is exactly true.
and then in true Blue fashion, it's his birthday and he sends me a bunch of presents. I got a shirt and some friendship bracelets and some pins. It was amazing.
And then you have Jake over on Twitter. Just send me your address. I'll send you more. I was like, is that all it takes?
I'm gonna get some
Jake
stuff from Jake.
I'm a little
Yay.
jealous.
It's okay.
I tweeted it back already.
You get to go to Guardian Con. Don't be jealous of me. So yeah, just a big shout out to Blue and Green, and also big shout out to Potato. Glad to have you here. Really happy to have you and Green, who actually know what's happening with this franchise, and be able to school me a little bit. I want this to be a novel. I would
Yeah.
really like this.
Then I would actually know what's going on.
It sounds
It's
like a
super
great
cool.
story.
It's so cool.
But yeah, just thank you guys for carrying us.
Potato, do you got some shout outs for us?
Yeah, I just really appreciate you guys letting me come on and talk and rant and break up my incoherent sentences sometimes. Yeah, just really enjoyed being here. Thanks for everyone who's in the chat and in the Discord and things like that. Love being here. Love you guys, and keep listening.
Green, what about you?
I want to thank everybody in chat for being patient with me, and my little setup is a little weird tonight because I'm having to call in on my phone and sit outside on my porch. So thanks for putting up with the rambling about the Horizon Zero Dawn, and thank you to Mr. Potato, Mr. Infested Potato, who I got to meet at Guardian Con and give a great big hug to. It was fun being able to talk to you again.
Yeah.
Kind of
This time I didn't have to like turn and realize who you were.
Yeah.
And
Well, it was loud. It was loud at the Wings
It was
place. But last shout out goes into book club, and if you haven't read up to chapter 4 in Starship Troopers, you need to start doing that because it is really cool.
Yeah.
And I will have to say that I actually read Ender's Game right before this, so I have a very weird setup into reading Super Trooper, or not Super Trooper, Starship Trooper.
Super Troopers.
I don't know. That'd be a great book. That'd be a cool book.
Calm down, meow.
Meow. Right, meow.
Oh,
you boys like Mexico?
yeah. Somewhere Robert Heinlein just turned.
I've been saying Super Trooper in my head every time I want to say
No,
Starship Trooper for the last
it's
month.
it's actually
Starship Troopers!
There you go.
Starship Troopers.
That drop is the most aggressive one by far.
When you first brought the topic up, Green, I actually took my headphones off.
Yeah. Preparation for the loudness. Yeah.
I missed it though.
I need to jump in there too because I'm actually rereading as we go. So, yeah, I'm at least up to chapter 4. I think I'm a little bit farther. So,
Yeah. We're doing about 4 chapters a week, so it's actually pretty low stress as far as how fast you have to read it. Because the
Yeah.
chapters aren't terribly long. I think the
Oh, no.
first 4 chapters are like maybe 80 pages or so.
They're really
Mhm.
detailed though.
They are.
Like,
Yeah.
Well,
it
and
gets
it's
into
really
it.
cool because like the entire book is, if I remember, I don't know if it still is, but I know that it used to be required reading at West Point. Actually,
Really?
yeah.
You're kidding me.
Nuh-uh, yeah. It was one of those
Huh.
little trivia things. I don't know. I don't know if it still is, but I know there was a period of time at that it was because of like the presentation of the tactics and everything. Like not like just like the social, balancing and political balancing and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's
I
what
can see
someone
that.
asked
Not
me. They
not
said,
to
"Is
mention that
like the
Heinlein
movie?"
is.
And I said, no, it's
Dictating our
got
military's tactics, Mike.
yeah. I was like, it's got much more of an intellectual, socio-political vibe to it, but
It's got a much more
it's-
intellectual vibe to it than.
yeah. Hey, you lay off my boy Casper Van Dien. But anyways, I'm rambling now. Read the book, get the book. This will be good. Blue sent me one that was absolutely gorgeous.
Oh yeah,
Feel free.
Send us pictures of 'em.
I'm a sucker for vintage sci-fi book covers. In fact, I have a collage in my office. I'll tweet a picture of it. Of someone made me a collage of these postcards that are vintage sci-fi covers. And I thought I had every Starship Troopers cover until Blue was like, You just-
Gotcha.
So
And
tweet
mine's in
them
a
at me.
plastic bag too. It still has the little protective. Someone tweeted, they're like, "Oh, you have it in plastic." We're like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I'm not putting this thing on just out in the middle of nowhere.
Air will not touch this cover.
This-
So good. It's got a Death Trooper on it. It's amazing.
oh, it's so fun.
Nice.
Well, anyways, guys.
But yeah, my shout outs just real quick. Next topic is obviously going to be Final Fantasy. Yes, the chat is probably already shoulder deep in that game because, you know,
Dammo.
the story is rather complex on that entire
All
series.
15 of them.
Oh my god.
Are we
I-
including
my-
Kingdom Hearts stuff as canon? Because I don't know.
No,
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 I think,
we're
I
not.
think-
We're doing main titles.
yeah, I think we're just
Okay,
doing main
good.
titles because yeah, if you start doing secondary titles, you're signing yourself up for a trip down headache lane. And then
There's
yeah,
a series line about the birds. The chocobos.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
There's 15 titles, main titles, so yeah, we're gonna have our hands full already.
It's a 2-day, like a 2-day event.
But yeah, so if you guys have any questions or comments or, you know, any thoughts on it, be sure to, if you're not going to jump in Discord, be sure to email us or message me on Discord or send us a tweet. We are using the hashtag AskFFC just to help track those over on Twitter. But again, whatever's easiest for you guys over there. And I apologize. I did tweet out just a minute ago. My quietness on this episode was actually due. There was something that came up, and I've actually had to step away from the mic a couple times, so that's why I've been so quiet. I will be editing this. It will be actually a little bit delayed in the release of the audio episode and obviously the YouTube episode. I'm going to try to get it out, you know, hopefully pretty soon. But it will not be as quickly as I normally get these out, just simply because it's not a huge emergency. It's just something that came up that requires my attention. And so I'm going to have to just go back through more with a fine-tooth comb than I normally do. And that obviously will add a little bit of editing time. So just keep that in mind with you, everyone. And yeah, do you guys have anything else, or are you good to run through the outro?
Let's do it.
All
Roll
right.
that beautiful bean footage.
With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. Links to all our other sites can also be found with our episode archives over on www.focusfirechat.com. Thank you again, Potato, for jumping into the chat. We really appreciate having you, and I'll be sure to get links to you in our show notes for anyone who wants to continue chatting with you. Please be sure to email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com with any feedback or questions for our team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback over on iTunes. Reminder that we do try to stream a recap of the month-long Extra Lore conversation in the first week of each month, but if we have any variations, we always make sure to let everyone know through our Twitter account at FocusFireChat. Also, be sure to check out our partner podcast within the Guardian Radio Network over on theguardiansofdestiny.com. So, until next time, focus your fire, and may your light shine bright.